Good morning, Solaris 7. Calgary Battletech brings you Uncivil Discourse with your hosts, Brett, Lee, and commentary from Jacque. All right, folks, we're moving into finals time. Last kick at that cat. Time to find out who our top dogs will be for the 4 teams remaining between our 2 divisions.
It's hard to believe that our first season back is coming to a head. 8 games in with 2 playoff rounds down and only 1 more to go. Time sure is flying by.
This has been an amazing season. Just the level of participation, the amount of fun and sportsmanship that has been had. It is great to see. And hopefully we'll have the same amount of enthusiasm and enjoyment for next season. But with that, let's take a look at the playoff round.
Game number 1, we saw the 55th Shadow Division come down to face off against the Executive Outcome on yet another new map set, unseen so far this season.
This was probably the most swingy of swing matches all season. It started off with a very early floating crit to the gyro of that Cicada, putting the 55th on the defensive and really cutting into their offensive might by taking away that little mosquito that you just can't ignore.
Didn't take long. We saw the game playing out 55th, 2 mechs down, Executive only having lost 1, but clearly with the upper hand.
And boom! Headshot, 2-2 tie.
And then...
boom! Headshot!
I think this game was a 3-3 tie at this point, but the details are a little sketchy.
And then...
boom! Headshot!
Final score, when the dust clears in this one, mech fans, 55th Shadow Division getting a win in a 4-3 finale. Brutal and ugly.
Game number 2, Merrick's Marauders meander onto the field to reap from the Riston's Rogues. Lee, tell us a little bit about this game since, you were there, but I hear it finished with a 4-2 victory.
I would love to say that I walked onto the board, slapped Riston's Rogues around, and walked off and went for a beer, but that's not what happened. It was tight. We were close, back and forth, back and forth, back and forth. He really tried to tee up on my archer. I put mechs to try to defend it. It was too late. I threw my Centurion out and kind of threw it to the wind and didn't focus on his archer, which had found a really nice partial cover position with trees for cover. It was still really close until he head-capped my stalker. It was going to be my 2 assaults versus his archer, but his Banshee that was able to withstand a huge amount of damage popped the head off the stalker and made it where it was 2-on-1, and my awesome with all of its armor just couldn't hold up to the firepower.
The only thing I have to say about this is... he made you his bitch. I told you were going down. Knew it.
Onward and upward to look at Division B games. Game number 1, Clan Cobra Chickens, after slithering their way past the Red Sons Irregulars in round 1, face off against the beefy Carstairs Stables. Jacque, tell us how this one played out.
Oh, in classic Cobra Chicken form, for the first half of the match, they just could not get their act together. They were going every which way but loose and even right turn Clyde themselves. It was just nasty, but too little, too late. Weren't able to pull off the win. Made a good showing of it in the last half of the match, but you have to play all the rounds. You have to be in for the full time limit. You can't just pick it up at the end. That being said, again, the awesome double head cap somebody. So at least there is one tradition that can continue positively.
All I can say about this is there, how do you feel like it? That burn a little bit there, Jacque? Enjoy it.
This one pretty much went down exactly as predicted. Not much else to say here.
Game number 2. Little bit of family drama happening here as the Killer Bunnies face off against their very own spawn, piloting those Crimson Ronin mechs.
We definitely got to see some child abuse here today, folks. This was really entertaining game to watch, where there was maneuvering and brain balling aplenty. Autocannon shots and missiles flying back and forth everywhere.
When all was said and done, this game ended in a 2-1 victory, watching those bunnies bounce off the Crimson's corpse to head off into the finals.
Oh, man, this whole game could have been played to the track LL Cool J, Mama Said Knock You Out. And Mama knocked him out. Don't disrespect your elders. Good showing by the Ronin, but Mama still knows best. Never forget that.
And that's going to take us into the Jacques Awards for this week.
Oh, after all the metal mashing mayhem that has happened in these playoff rounds, there's only one award that I can give out this week, and that is to the executive outcomes. Ballin', but at what cost? He had the game. He gyroed that pain in the neck cicada that has been the bane of many mech warriors and stables' existence this season, only to have fate and karma say, I don't think so, Tim, and it completely turned around. So this one, solo award this week, going out to the executive outcomes.
And that's going to take us into this week's interviews.
So tonight on Uncivil Discourse, I am being joined by Heather Thoms, my wife, who is a longtime league member, about 3 or 4 seasons now. Is that right, Heather?
No, you're crazy. This is my second season. We played in a season the year I was pregnant with Cameron, and then we didn't after that.
Well, you had a very successful season, so that'll be one of the questions we get to. In that vein, what introduced you to Battletech? How did you get involved in this?
Well, weirdest thing was my university boyfriend, he would have these weird sheets around his room, and I'd be like, what are these? You color in dots, and you like have these little figurines. Like, how stupid does this game look? I had no interest in learning how to play it at all at that point in time. And then when you and I started to date, I really have no idea how you convinced me to finally play. I think we were actually out in Banff or in Canmore when you were working out there sometime, and you did something to pass the time, and so you guys taught me how to play Battletech, I think.
Yeah, I think we did. It was you saw. I think it was PJ at the time and I playing.
Yeah, I think so. Yeah.
Yeah, I believe it was PJ and I were actually playing in regards to doing play testing for one of the old seasons that I ran.
I think that was one of the season. I didn't play in that season, but I think you guys were playing, and I'm like, oh, that actually kind of looks interesting. And then lo and behold, I play, and until this year, geez Louise, you have never beaten me.
The beginning of a lot of beatings you're going to take.
That was a one-off.
Yeah, you actually ended up having a really successful season other than those last 2 games of the regular season. And our game, you played really well. You did great in the quarterfinals, just unfortunately you lost. What did you do this year differently than years before?
I don't think I really did much differently other than knowing my mechs. In previous years, the previous season that I played in, I didn't really know that much. Like, it was 9 years ago, so I didn't know the same kind of tactics that I know now, and I didn't have the same kind of knowledge of weaponry. So I was just really aware of what my mechs could do. Did some talking to you and some of the other players like Jeff or Brett to kind of figure out how the best ways were to move my mechs and what each type of mech was good for, as well as before each game. And this is something I would recommend to anybody who's new to Battletech or playing in this kind of a fashion where it's not a one-off game, is looking at the other players' mechs. And I would write down in my own shorthand, I would write down like the mech's name, what it was, the distance or its range. And then I would also write down the movement so that I could keep an eye on, okay, well, if this little guy is an Orion and he moves, I'm just throwing the numbers out there, 5'6", I had to keep my Trebuchet or my Vulcan a certain distance away from it. So I had those things written down on my sheets, and I think that's really what helped me have the successes that I did have.
Yeah, keeping good notes and understanding your opponent's mechs makes a big difference for when it comes to your own tactics and being able to adjust on the fly in case something doesn't go quite the way you were expecting it to.
Well, and like for me, compared to you and a lot of the other guys, you guys all know the backstory. I'm not really into the fluff. I just want to play the games and blow shit up. So, blow stuff up. And I don't have the brain to remember all these different mechs and stuff. So if I can write it down at the beginning of the game, I at least have something to refer back to as the game goes on.
That's a really good point that you were mentioning, that you gleaned information from other people in the league, like Brett and Jeff and myself. Out of all of your opponents, who did you learn the most from? And do you remember what that lesson was?
Actually, I'm not trying to be a suck up here. I think opponents that I learned the most from it would be you, just because it was our first game in the season and you reminded me of certain things, of how my Trebuchet and my Vulcan move, and even between games we would talk and you would help me remember the different things to do with my mech, so I would know that. You also reminded me that my Cestus and my Devastator could stay back. They didn't need to be right into the fight, and that keeping them together is also something that was going to be more helpful. So even though it's not a specific thing from exact match, from you, and because we talk about it like into league, out of league, that's kind of who I'd say I'd learn the most from. But other than that, like, we have lots of guys in league who are so helpful when you're playing, whether you're playing them or they're just around. Like AP this year was really awesome at coming around to not just me, but some of our other newer members and asking us questions like, why did you do this? Or remember that this mech does this, and really making us think things through. So like if I was playing, like when I played Jeff, he would let me, if I put a dice down and then before he moved his mech, I'm like, oh, that was a stupid move. He would say, okay, you want to take it back, and let me walk it through. And even when I played our last game against Dave, there was times where I was getting ready to put the dice down and he stopped me and said, hey, why are you doing that? Have you thought about this instead of this? And it could have thrown his game and he could have lost, but still being able to say, like, I'm way less experienced than he is, being willing to give me some feedback and help me along is just super helpful.
Yeah, we have a great community for that kind of thing. Do you have any goals for next season? And do you have any opponents that you'd really like to face off against that you didn't get to play this year?
My goals are to take it all. No, I'm just joking. My first goal would be to be a little bit more consistent with the way that I'm using my mechs, and even being a little bit more thoughtful than I have this year, which I would hope would get me past the first round of playoffs and not just lose the quarterfinals. So maybe hopefully make it into the semifinals or even finals next year.
Right on. Well, you know what? I totally think you're capable of doing it. So I could see you definitely moving up in the standings and in the playoff situation. Who would you like to face off against? Anybody particular?
Well, this season I didn't play JP, or I'm trying to think. Like I didn't play that many. Like I only played the same amount of games of everybody else. There's so many other people I haven't played against. Definitely I want to play against JP. I don't really know the other guys very well, but I'd also like to play one of the women one time. Let's see how that works out, considering there's only 3 of us. And I didn't play Mackenzie or Laura, so that would be kind of cool.
Yeah, from what I got to play Laura, but I didn't get to play Mackenzie, and apparently Mackenzie's a joy to play against, and Laura was a lot of fun too.
Yeah, it would just be kind of nice.
And just to wrap everything up, do you have any comments for the current players in League right now, and anybody who might be considering joining?
For anybody who's considering joining, this is so much fun. It's an awesome community. I know we're slowly adding more people, and when I say it's an awesome community, I don't just mean in Battletech. Everybody is supportive of everybody else. Being at home sick right now, the boys are doing a good job of keeping you on your toes and kind of checking on me, seeing how I'm doing. But we're a little family, a little community that's really supportive of each other. So joining up would be great. For everybody who I might be playing against next year, come on, guys. You know you want to take me on. I am and will forever be a FOC winner.
Yeah, you won the P-Hawk Award and renamed it from the Phoenix Hawk Award to the FOC Award. So
really? Duh.
Yeah, no, that is it, and it's going to stick. I can tell you right now. Thank you for joining me, Heather. It's been a blast interviewing you. I know it's been a long time coming, and look forward to seeing you back at the table once you're healthy and hopefully kicking butt next season.
Thanks, Lee, for the interview, and talk to you guys all later.
Thanks, Heather, for that interview, and I look forward to hearing from the next person that we interview who will be the champion.
This leads us into the final matches. B-side finale. 11th place, Carstairs Stables, 5 wins, 4 losses, and a tie. 13 kills, 18 deaths, versus the 13th place overall, Killer Bunnies, 5 wins, 5 losses, no ties. 13 kills, 14 deaths.
So what can be said about this rookie stable, Carstairs Stables? Located just outside the city limits, they have put together an incredible roller coaster season of ups and downs to reach the B-side finals. These guys are absolutely beautiful when it comes to on-field play.
At the regular season's halfway point, the Carstairs Stables featured a 2-win, 1-loss, 1-tie record, and were sitting in contention for the A-side playoffs. Just a couple more wins or a series of ties would have kept them into the A-side.
However, the Beefy Boys went on a slide, slipping their next 3 games while facing 3 A-side contenders in the Ristons Rogues, First Clovis Lancers, and Huber Sink.
Heading into their Week 8 matchup against the Crimson Ronin, Carstairs Stables season was on life support, and it needed a jolt badly.
Following a gutsy victory in that bout, the Carstairs finished the season with a 3-win, 4-loss in the single tie, with the 11th best record in the Calgary Battletech League.
In the playoffs, Carstairs Stables eliminated the Shitehawks when illness forced the Shitehawks to forfeit in round 1, and took care of business in their second round playoff match against the veteran clan Cobra Chickens.
In that bout, they earned a 3-1 victory that left no doubts about their status as a contender and pushing their running total of consecutive wins to 3.
Time to take one last look at the Carstairs Stables mech list. With upgrades, 32 points spent out of a possible 32, they squeaked them all in and had their lance teed up for the playoff situation.
Running an awesome 8Q, the engineers took this mech into the mech bays to hammer in double heat sinks. The tech slapped on some jump jets and a 4th PPC. Of course, running 4 PPCs, it is unsurprising that the pilot is using the PPCs as a favorite weapon for far more accuracy.
The Carstairs Battlemaster 3M told the techs to mount those 2 rear medium lasers up to the front, and would be a creeping doom across the battlefield for more accurate fire. Both the Awesome and the Battlemaster run combat wisdom, letting them force a headshot to be re-rolled, adding some much-needed survivability to these 2 zombie assault mechs.
Not much to see on the third mech of this lance. The only points invested was to take out the old 3025 Tech Thunderbolt and reassign it into a 3050 upgrade.
The medium in this lance is one of the many Wolverines we have in the season this year. Wolverine 7D. Mask, kicking it up to run around all over the map board, helps get this Mechajitsu trained pilot into a better position, which it used very much to its advantage against the danger zone of the Clan Cobra Chicken's Awesome. And also, him being a little bit of a under-the-table payment briber means that this land starts off on the right side of the map always. A very big lesson learned by a lot of the stables this season, as we saw many of them pick up bribery at the end.
Next up is the Killer Bunnies. And although the Killer Bunnies were not a new team to the league this season, it has undoubtedly been a fair few years since the Bunnies have regularly run rampant, rampaging over the competitive Battletech scene.
Similar to the Carstairs stables, the Bunnies also hopped out to a hot start, sitting pretty with a 2-1 record at the start of the season.
Having already faced a pair of the league's elite teams, however, the Bunnies were also victimized by a demanding mid-season schedule as they proceeded to tumble down the rabbit hole in the standings to the tune of 4 straight losses.
Facing a do-or-die matchup in Week 8 against the Red Sun Irregulars, the Killer Bunnies bounced their opponents over the field to a 3-0 defeat.
They kept the momentum going to carry them to 2 more victories, downing the Macross stables in round 1 of the playoffs, and then sending their son to bed with no supper in a second-round playoff to round 2.
Now let's see what the Killer Bunnies have under the hood with their mech list. Their upgrades, they spent 31 points out of a possible 32 total, meaning they just left 1 point left on the table. We'll have to see if that costs them.
Zeus 9S. You don't see a lot of Zeuses on the battlefield this season. This one is definitely erratic pilot, has the ability to trade movement for defensive modifiers, at the cost of also suffering abilities to hit. But using Technician, they also moved 1 rear-facing medium pulse laser forward to get in close.
Clearly, the MVP of this lance was the Dragonfire 3F. It gained Mountaineer preseason for free, based on the faction choice. This lets the mech move around the board much more freely, and Personal Vendetta meant the firepower is going to be that much more accurate against its chosen target.
If the Dragonfire is the MVP, the Shadowhawk is definitely the favorite child of this lance, having a monstrous 14 points invested in it. First, reassigning from the 30-25 variant into the 30-50, then clan salvaging the LRM-20, and finally putting gunnery on this to make sure that all those upgrades were that much more dangerous.
Rounding out the lance, we see the classic Draconis Combine Grand Dragon 5K. Engineers yanked out the LRM-10 in favor of 2 SRM-6 packs, and with Mechajitsu, makes this mech a close-in brawler for sure.
In this ultimate showdown of the Calgary Battletech League's Phoenix Reborn season, we should all be expecting a tightly contested defensive struggle here.
Both these teams favor a tight defensive style of play, and the final score will likely reflect those styles of play.
Expect the Bunnies to try and match the size and armor of the Carstairs stables with speed and deadly aggression.
The final score in this round will likely be 1-0, 2-1, or 1-1, with the tiebreaker going to the technical decision on the judges' part.
One thing is certain with the playoff tiebreaker rules, there will be a clear and decisive result, and we will have a new name that will forever enter the annals of league history. I have been very, very much in the Bunnies' corner. I think they're going to take it. I think you guys are completely wrong. It's going to be a 3-1 victory for them. And Jacque, make a call. It's the finals. Come on, man, work with us here.
One sec. I need to get something out here. Statement from my lawyer. I accept no responsibility, financial or physical, for anyone making book on any calls that I make hereforth until the end of time, so be it. All right. I'll make a call. With how they performed against the Clan Cobra Chickens, I'm going to give this one to the out-of-town boys. It's going to be Carstairs Stables. I know I've favored the Bunnies for most of the season, but just with the way that Carstairs Stables has come out of the gate into the playoffs, guns blazing, balls to the wall, these guys are going to take it, and it's going to be fairly decisive. I'm thinking 3-1.
Even further evidence, it was paid actors. John got paid to throw that match, almost positive.
I'm expecting this to be a tight game, probably a 3-2 final score, First mech to die will be the Carstairs Wolverine, followed by the Killer Bunny's Grand Dragon, then the Bunny's Dragonfire. The fourth casualty will be the Battlemaster, just absorbing fire and going down, but taking the Shadowhawk with it as time expires for a 3-2 Carstairs nail-biting at the end victory for B Division.
Now we move on to the big show, the A-side finale. We have the first seed, 55th Shadow Division, 9 wins, 1 loss, 0 ties, with 35 kills for and 14 against. They're up against the third seed, Riston's Rogues, 8 wins, 1 loss, and 1 tie, 27 kills for, 11 against.
55th Shadow Division. What can be said about these guys? A newcomer to the Calgary Battletech League, but certainly not a new player to Battletech itself. Few knew what to expect from the 55th, and 3 weeks into the season, as the Shadow Division sported a 2-1 record, but with a pair of victories over rookie stables and a loss to the league veteran Killer Bunnies. Then the Shadow Division exploded, powering off 5 consecutive wins to end the season in the top spot of the league. 55th faced a pair of league veteran opponents in the Ghost Legion and executive outcomes in these playoffs.
Both of those games were desperate affairs, with the tide of war seemingly shifting with every roll. But ultimately, the 55th survived a 2-0 deficit against the Ghost Legion to come back and win 4-2.
Against the executive outcome, the Shadow Division again faced a 2-0 deficit, but rallied for a 4-3 win as time expired.
The 55th Shadow Division takes no prisoners, as evidenced by their league-leading 35 kills. Only the Killer Bunnies, who defeated them, survived to tell the tale.
Let's review the 55th Shadow Division mech list. This is an epic force. Never anything to ignore, and every single mech is a threat. The Banshee 3S, with Black Market for some boosted armor, and Lethargic to gain a point of gunnery when it walks, makes this machine brutally dangerous. All of the Banshees this season have been tough. This is one of the best ones.
Following that, we've got a Victor 9B sporting that AC-20, Underworld Contacts to add Endo Steel for some extra weight, again for armor and case, and Target Lock. This gunnery effective skill gets better the longer you keep hitting the same target.
70-ton Shootist 8A, classic Comstar Wabi mech. Engineering out the ER large laser for an extra medium pulse, and this thing has personal vendetta on it, makes it for a very, very bad day if anyone gets too close to this beast.
Does anybody hear that buzzing sound? I hear a buzzing sound. It's like there's a little mosquito, and it keeps moving around behind you, and you can't quite get it. That is that pissant Cicada 3F, moving 8-12-8 with an upgraded clan ERPPC, which of course became its favorite weapon, and it would bounce around, bounding back and forth, occasionally hitting you with 15-point shots. You just simply couldn't ignore it. And now we move on to the Riston's Rogues stable. They're a longtime league veteran and a perennial A-side contender. Riston's Rogues entered the season as one of the expected league frontrunners. In that respect, the Riston Rogues have not disappointed.
After shaking off rust in the league opening week with a 1-1 tie against the Einherjar, Riston's Rogues rattled off 5 consecutive victories to seize the number 1 overall seed from the hands of Hubris Inc.
Despite enduring a devilishly devastating derailment from the league's top spot the following week at the hands of the executive outcome in their Week 7 matchup, Riston's Rogue ended the postseason on a roll. Rocking and rolling, they won 6 of 7 games and have cranked up their aggression to wholly new heights.
During the regular season, the Rogues utilized an oppressively smothering style of play to win with a great offense and an elite defense. But in the postseason,
Riston's Rogues has destroyed all 8 opposing mechs in the playoffs while only losing 3 of their own for a playoff top leading +5 kill to death ratio.
During this 2-game run, the Rogues ended the Cinderella story of the First Clovis Lancers and then demolished longtime league veteran Merrick's Marauders.
I'm still giggling about that. But let's review Riston's Rogues TO&E. With upgrades, 31 points spent out of a possible 36 due to their stable choice.
Oh look, another Banshee 3S. This one, however, engineered with double heatsinks, making this thing even more dangerous the closer you get to it. Tag that with the Pathfinder ability, an ability to move through trees with ease, and gunnery, this assault is destined to shine.
Next up, dear to my heart is one of my favorites, an Archer 5R. It's not a common variant. With twin LRM 15s and twin ER large lasers, this wily veteran put clan ferro armor on it and uses forest fire to shoot through trees with ease. Got to be very careful, because where you think this mech is out of the running, it has got a clear line of sight on your mechs and can hammer you with very little intervening terrain.
Starting off with a Kentaro 18, Riston's was quick to reassign it to a more useful variant, the 20. Then they slapped a Clan ER large laser on it so it can reach out and bad touch anywhere it wants to. Means this running ammo box is slightly more survivable. Not much, but slightly.
Lastly, we see one of 4 League Wolverine 7K mechs. Clearly, this superior stalker needed little assistance, as Riston only invested 4 points to buy it anticipation, dropping 1 point of defense off whoever it is shooting at.
The final game of the Calgary Battletech League season 2021-2022 features 2 red-hot elite teams on a quest for their first taste of league glory. The rookie 55th Shadow Division, the veteran Riston's Rogues. Who is going to raise the trophy?
Which will win out? The elite defense and counterpunching of Riston's Rogues, or the almost berserker-like ferocity of the 55th Shadow Division's implacable offensive power?
In their respective playoff games, Riston's Rogue has seized on small advantages and snowballed them into one-sided margins.
In contrast, the 55th has fought from behind and swung momentum back for dramatic victories with good decision-making and clutch rolling.
This one, be certain to take the over-under for kills in this matchup, as both sides have been on a tear, and it's very, very likely to be a 3-2 or a 4-3 result in this matchup, which could very well come down to the last roll of the game.
This is going to be the nail biter. This is going to be for all the marbles, and both teams know it. I'm honestly, and I know as much as my cohorts here like to bash me for it, I am at a loss as to say who's going to take it. I would dearly love to see both these teams as co-champions raise the trophy, but it can't happen. This one's going to be a hard-fought fight. It's going to be a tie. It's going to come down to a technical. It's going to be 2-2, 3-3, but they're going to be counting points at the end.
You're the only man I know to squeeze a dime out of a nickel, Jacque. So here's my prediction. I have been all over the Riston's Rogues this season. I had to vote against them when they played against me. I got to go back on that horse and say the Riston's Rogues are going to take it. Mainly reason why, you can't keep coming back from behind. Once you're down, those numbers are against you. So I'm going to state that the Riston's Rogues are going to win with a 3-2 victory. It's going to be a good game, but in the end, they're going to take advantage of any little mistake the 55th Shadow Division has, and they're going to pull out the win.
This one's going to be a 4-2 Riston Rogues first kill going to the 55th Shadow Division, but the Rogues are just going to hammer them into the ground for the rest of the game. With our final round being played out on January 30th, expect one more podcast regarding this season so all our viewers can find out how things finish up. Our season wrap-up event will be held at the Ogre's Den on February 20th, and we will start looking towards Season 2 at that point.
This has been an amazing season, rising from the ashes, the Calgary Battletech League, having the players, having the fun, having the camaraderie. That is the spirit of this game, Battletech, that we love so much. And again, a heartfelt thank you to you, all the fans who listen to us go on and ramble and hopefully not laugh too much at our mistakes. It's been a great season. We hope to see you again next season. Thank you all so very much.
So our next game days interview is going to be with the winner, of course, both the A side and the B side finales. And after that, a whole bunch of content. We're going to go over those with you next game day, so you have some idea what to look forward to. And please feel free to send us episode ideas to the calgarybattletech@gmail.com email address, or post it in the comments here. We plan on continuing to make content for the channel and would love your feedback on what you liked and would love to see more of, or even topics or content that was not covered that you would enjoy us talking about during the off season. Thank you very much for joining us. It's always a pleasure to speak to all of you. Have a great night.
Coming at you like a shot to the cockpit. Good night and lights out.